Good morning. It is day 4 of my baking week, day 3 of actually baking. Today I woke up, I had breakfast, I had first coffee. I'm just getting my kitchen ready, I'm getting myself ready. I'm ready to start weighing out my ingredients for the day so I can film my recipes. I'm making a couple different buttercreams, and then I have the project I started yesterday that I'm going to finish today for a separate video. Before I get into all of that, I just need to get moving a little bit. I need to get out of my apartment. So I'm going to go for a little neighborhood walk, grab a second coffee, and then come back, finish my scaling, and get right into filming. Whereas the last 2 days with my macaron shells, I had a really strict list of everything I wanted to get done. I've reached the point in my week where I have a lot of things that I need to do, but I'm a bit more flexible since all the shells are finished. As many as can be in my freezer are in my freezer. I have the ones I'll use today out at room temperature, and I just want to get as much done as possible. So I'm not going to be in a rush, but I'm going to get to what I can get to. So hopefully I'll get through today's list and I'll start eking into what I have planned for tomorrow. I'd like to get ahead if possible, but it's okay if I don't. So with that in mind, I'm going to get outside, go for a little walk, and then get into baking. Two things that I deal with filming content year-round from my apartment in Portland, Oregon, are that the winter daylight hours are quite limited, and there is just a lot of rainy, gray weather throughout the entire winter as well. And I film completely by natural light. I just found an apartment that has a ton of windows. I found this apartment specifically because I knew it would be a great location for filming, and I'm high enough up in my building that I am not super worried about the cloudy and rainy weather. It actually really doesn't affect me too much. Yes, it's nice to have the sunshine and the really blue sky, but that still does cause some shadows. So actually the bright gray sky is actually really nice as far as soft lighting goes. So that doesn't bother me too much. But one thing that is really challenging to deal with is just the daylight hours in the winter. Generally, it's light enough for me to start filming by like 8 a.m., maybe 7:30. And then I really need to be wrapped up by like 4 p.m. Whereas in the spring and summer, kind of through early fall, I can start filming by 7 a.m. And if I wanted to, I could be filming until, 7, maybe even 8 p.m., especially in the summer. So I have a lot more time. But for me, especially in the winter, and especially when it's already gray and cloudy, there isn't a super bright sunlight day going on. If the sun is setting earlier and it's gray, it's already darker, or it's just like a super, super rainy day, it's a really dark sky, that's a lot harder for me to film, and it pressures me to be more organized. So all of this to say, as you're watching me prep ingredients for my day, it is really important for me to be as organized as possible, especially in the winter season, to make sure that everything is getting done, because the time I have available to me to film is just very, very limited. I don't know where you personally are living and if you're filming for content creation, but if you are, keeping this in mind, making sure you're organized, making sure everything gets done in the window of time you have, is just so important. As you can see from this day, I am weighing out all of the ingredients I need for the bakes I'm making this day, which is a bit different from how I handle my macaron shells, which are things that I always weigh out the day before. And there are a couple of reasons for this. Number one, with macaron shells, all of the ingredients except for the egg whites are dry ingredients that are okay and not messy to be stored in deli containers for a day or 2 or 5 or 10. So that's really easy to work with. And then for the egg whites, it's really nice for macarons to use aged
egg whites. So cracking the eggs a day before is actually really nice and works really well for me in my kitchen. For all of the other things that I'm making, I really like to weigh them directly into the containers that I want to photograph them in. But because I both have a limited number of containers to use, and because not all of those containers have nice lids for longer term storage, it's just much more cumbersome for me personally to be weighing out all of those other components in advance. So I usually will do a bulk weighing out or scaling moment in the morning before I start my baking day when I'm not making macaron shells. So that is what you saw me doing here today. And then I go directly into making and filming all of those recipes of the things I just weighed out. Of course, if there are things like butter that I want to be at room temperature, I'll make sure to pull that soon enough so it is ready to use when I want to use it, or fruit purees that I have in my freezer, I'll make sure to pull those the night before. Things like that to make it easier. If, however, you are a person who has a bakery or who sells your pastries or even just a hobby baker and you want to be organized and you're not filming content creation the same way that I am, I would recommend weighing out all of your components a day or 2 or 3 even before. That is more common for how bakeries and restaurants operate. On days where I have a ton of random tasks to do, or I have a lot of different bakes that I'm working on that are not things that I make all the time, it's a little bit harder for me to plan my time management because there are just tasks that maybe aren't going to be done at a certain time, or maybe will take me a little bit longer to film than I anticipated, or getting all the angles might not go as smoothly as I thought, or sometimes I might make it, not be happy with the result, and then add on that same task to my day again so I can redo it. So finding the time to do things like stop for lunch, have time to clean up, go for a little walk. Those things are a little bit less predictable on my days when I'm not just making macaron shells or just general macarons or only macarons. So those breaks are things that I still try really hard to plan into my schedule at a general time, but I'm always going by how things are going, when does it seem logical for me to stop. So sometimes my lunch breaks are really early and sometimes they're really late.
Okay, I'm done with the macarons I'm making today. I have one thing to scale for tomorrow, or it's a recipe I'm making today that I'll use tomorrow. Then I'm going to finish up a project I was working on yesterday. And then I have 2 other things that I don't need to film, but I do need to work on. After that, cleaning a couple times. And then hopefully I have time this evening to run a few errands and go for a walk again. So a little reset, changing modes, different types of pastries happening. I like to group pastries by type most of the time, which is why I like to do all my macaron shells yesterday, the day before. I'm working on just fillings today, and then I'm switching into other kinds of pastry. I'm not making macarons this afternoon. So a couple more hours of work and then hopefully wrap it up, not too late.
One of the first things that was just absolutely drilled into my head in pastry school was cleaning as you go. Whether you work somewhere and there is a dedicated person who does the dishes, or if you are in charge of doing your own dishes, whether it's your home kitchen or you just work in a very small bakery or restaurant and need to do that, letting your dishes pile up is such an easy way to create chaos for yourself later on. And yes, there are moments and days where you just cannot get a handle on it. You cannot shift your focus. It just doesn't work out. But truly, it is so much easier to go through a very long day of baking if you are cleaning while you go. So if that is not something you are already setting aside time for, please make sure you start adding that into your daily schedule, unless, again, you have a dedicated dishwasher in the kitchen you are working in. One reason I really want to bring that up right now, as you can see, I'm weighing out ingredients again, and you can see that I'm using the jars and containers and dishes that I use to weigh out all my separate ingredients. Again, so that when I take photos and videos for my recipes and tutorials, everybody can see each of the ingredients individually. It gives a better visual cue of the quantity of that ingredient, what that ingredient looks like at the beginning, all on its own. And I only have a certain number of these dishes. If I had unlimited space, if I had a whole room dedicated for dish storage, if I had unlimited funds, would I just get dozens or hundreds more of all of these dishes? Yes, but I have a limited number, so these are especially things that I need to be turning over and washing, cleaning, drying throughout my day on busier baking days. The baking project I'm working on this afternoon, I'm so excited. It's actually for another ebook. I am working on slowly but surely a cake scraps ebook to demonstrate more what I do with leftover pieces of cake or sponge or whatever similar substance in my kitchen if I have extra from macarons or any other bake that I do, because really you should never be throwing things away unless they have gone so wrong that there's no salvaging them. So I just want people to have a lot of recipes to pull on that are delicious and feel like a recipe in and of themselves, but are using up scraps from odds and ends in their kitchen, whether it's for themselves or to turn around and sell as another product. The reason I didn't film the ladyfinger that I just made was just because I had a lot of video recording of that, so I just filmed a time lapse while I was doing that.
It is the end of the baking portion of my day. As you can probably see behind me, I have a bunch of dishes to do. So I am going to get to that, go for a walk. I have an errand to run. And then I do actually have a little bit of editing work I want to get to tonight. So I'm not quite done with work. I am going to do 2 voiceovers just to stay on top of everything. And then hopefully I can call it a night. So not too much more work to do, but filming is all done. That's a success. It's 5:30. That's not a bad day. So yeah, a few more things to do, a lot of cleaning. And then tomorrow is going to look a lot like today. I'm going to do even more macaron fillings, a lot more buttercream videos, and then do some prep for the following day, which will be my final day of filling the macarons for this week. Hopefully Friday will be just photos of everything when I have 18 batches of macarons plus the group photos. Taking photos takes actually a lot of time. So I'm hoping that's the only baking thing that I need to do Friday and I don't have other actual baking tasks to do. And then it can otherwise just be an editing kind of day. And then, yeah, hopefully the week will round out nicely and be done by that last day. So cleanup time, 2 more days of baking. I'll see you tomorrow.
All right, one of my errands was to go to this store that is like a mile from my apartment or something, and they just sell chocolate and salt, and it is the best store ever. I get so many gifts there, and I wanted to get something for a friend of mine, and I found this really awesome chocolate bar that is a collaboration with a local restaurant in town. So anyway, that was really cool. Wanted to show that to you, but now I am going to wrap up my day. So I have one more time lapse for you to look at. I love filming out of my window with all of the scenery. Thank you for being here and for watching. I have 2 more days in my baking week to go, so stay tuned for those.